Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd Podcast.
Greetings, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Josh's House of Nerd is brought to you by Unobtainium. If you don't know what it is, well, it's in the name. Not a sponsor. All right. I really struggled with that one tonight. Short and sweet. I wanted to do something with Unobtainium, but I couldn't think of anything. I thought about it all day.
You couldn't obtain an idea.
Dude, I was like struggling today. I actually been struggling for a couple days on that one. I wasn't having any good thoughts coming to my head. So anyways.
Inspiration can be hard to come by.
Sometimes it is. I think I've been really lucky up to now. And then I'm having a bit of a dry spell. So anyways. All right, for today's podcast, we have John and Crit on with us, and today we are discussing the movie that John and I picked from Crit's 3 choices last week, which is a Spanish heist movie called The Fury of a Patient Man, and this is the last movie in our heist movie series that we've been doing for this month. So. Fury of a Patient Man. Let's get started, guys. What do you guys think?
There's a lot to unpack.
Let's get started.
Well, we got time.
I think it's important to note first, though, that the title in Spanish is Tarde para la ira, which is late to anger. So it's not even the Fury of the Patient Man in Spanish. It's late to anger. And I think that becomes more relevant as we'll discuss the film more in depth. But I think that title fits even more closely than The Fury of a Patient Man.
I'm not sure I agree, but we can get to that. Because I think he was pretty angry at the beginning, early on in the process.
Yeah.
It just doesn't show it. Yeah.
I think they both fit in their own way just because, yeah. I mean, you know, one is what'd you say the one in Spanish was again? It was
late to anger.
And it kind of is because, like, you know, he's waited so long till like maybe later in his life with this anger that he's had, and now he's, you know, doing what he does with that. They kind of fit in kind of different ways. Yeah. Well,
and I think Crit made a good point that he's pretty angry off the first bit because I think it's more like the anger. I don't know.
Well, I can see why they changed it for the English. First of all, The Fury of a Patient Man is just a very evocative title. Like you get the idea of what you're going into from that title. I think it's a really good title because it's not that it's not that he's late to the emotion of anger. He had that from the very beginning. It takes an extreme amount of anger to do what he did in that movie, to actually go through all those processes and actually just go through it. Like I don't know how you do that and not just have this seething anger inside.
Well, and I think the film did a fantastic job of translating that anger into tension throughout the film.
Oh yeah.
Holy cow.
Absolutely.
This film is a study in tension building.
And just a lot of acting to convey that. Right? It's not a whole lot of like dialogue that conveys it. It's like up close personal, up close shots of actors' faces conveying these emotions, especially the lead.
He was really good in translating that. I mean, you could very much see what was going on with him at that moment, even though he wasn't saying anything. And I mean, he conveyed that really well. And then there was times where he kind of left it a mystery. You didn't know what he was feeling, which is also a hard thing to convey. Like purposefully, you kind of were questioning what was going on, you know, and what he was thinking in different parts. And there's, I mean, specifically, there's parts in this movie where I honestly thought maybe he would give mercy, you know, but at the same time, I couldn't read him.
Yeah.
And then he definitely went a different direction than I expected. and that's hard. I think the acting, is done very, very well. If I feel like sometimes, we don't always, when a lot of people aren't used to seeing like subtitled movies and things like that, they don't always, they look differently at them. And this is the style of movie where, that people need to look at more just because of what it is and not be afraid of it being subtitled, because the way that this was conveyed through emotion and through the movie, I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, agreed.
It was a slow film too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think had the acting not been able to stand up to it, the film would have just been horrible for how slow the plot actually moves. But because the actors were pulling their weight, that slow moving plot in the beginning just did its job in I pulled its weight. I can't express it in any other term than that.
I'll be honest with you on this movie, guys. This is the weirder of the heist movies that I didn't expect what this movie was going to be. It starts out as a heist movie, but then it goes into something completely different, more of a revenge, flick. And I was quite surprised on this.
I'm glad.
It kind of shocked me a little bit, in honesty, of where this thing went.
You talk about expectations, and I went into it after watching the trailer or the teaser, and after watching the first little bit and seeing the heist and how it transitioned into this revenge thing. I was expecting kind of like the Spanish version of Taken or something along those lines, where you get this BA guy who's just angry and he just goes on this crazy spree and doesn't stop until everyone's dead. And that expectation lasted right up until the point where Kuro beats the crap out of him in the hospital.
Right.
It gets to that point and you're like, wait a second, what the heck is going on? This is not that kind of film. He just got his butt handed to him by this guy who's been in prison for 8 years, which is, makes sense. But he's not a BA, he hasn't thought all this, the whole thing out other than his basic plan. He hasn't, been training for years. He's not some ex-special forces guy. He's just a guy,
And by BA, you mean badass?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was missing the BA thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I get you.
No, but it lasted right up into the point where Kuro throws that first punch, and I'm like, oh, apparently he's not a badass.
Well, I mean, and that's the crazy part is like, the protagonist has, he shows fear during that. He's unsure. He's set himself upon this path, but he is, and he's willing to. He at least shows the resolve to take the punishment necessary to see the end of it. But he's not, like you're saying, he's not a badass. He's not unbreakable. He's not, he's still worried about the outcome and worried about getting hurt and stuff like that. So it's, I don't know. It felt realer because of that. More real, I guess.
Well, I absolutely agree. It felt real, but then what it did is it threw whether or not it was actually going to happen into question, whether or not he'd actually accomplish it. And so suddenly what you get in, American action films of like, oh yeah, it'll end up being okay at the end and he'll get his revenge and everything will go hunky-dory. Suddenly that's all thrown up in the air and you're like, oh crap, this movie could end really badly for him. He could not, he could not get revenge. He could be killed pretty quickly or, in such a worse spot. And it's thrown so much up in the air with that single punch, just gone. All those expectations of a Spanish Taken just out the window. and it was crazy because in my notes, I wrote down, I was like, hey, this guy's got kind of a Clint Eastwood type vibe to him,
Right.
Where he's this silent, silent killer type guy, and he's angry, and he's just got this Clint Eastwood vibe where he's going to come in and be, the guy in Smoking Aces where he just lays waste, and that was so far from the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was kind of like I wondered what was going on. I thought he was going to get his butt kicked. I didn't think he was walking away from it, honestly, and I thought it was going to completely be different from there on. But the one thing that I started going on is with them is what was the actual like motivation of that guy to start taking his? Was it just the whole thing of just Anna being away from his girlfriend? Because I mean, he could tell that he was, when they started on their journey, he didn't want to be a part of it at all. Even though you could clearly see that they had set it up that he could clearly kick his butt. And that's why I'm bringing this up. He could have killed Jose at any time.
Right, but Jose is using Anna and their kid as hostage.
Right.
And so the whole thing about Kuro is that he actually does care about his kid and Anna. He doesn't.
Which you kind of question that sometimes too.
Well, because
you questioned that at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The relationship is, I don't want to say
for 8 years.
Stereotypically Spanish, but it is hot and heavy, and a little violent and a little abusive. But he still deeply cares, for them, and enough to go along with, and not wash his hands of his kid and his,
because he could have just walked away and been like, okay, screw that.
He could have been, yeah.
But and it's interesting that while Jose was holding them hostage, he wasn't holding them hostage at the same time. He didn't
let Kuro know that.
Yeah, he didn't let Kuro know that. And that was an interesting subtle power play. It's like, I'm not technically holding the hostage, but you don't have to know that. You don't know where they are. I know where they are, and I'm just going to give the impression that something bad's going to happen to them.
Right.
If you don't help me here.
But at the same time, he did have feelings for Anna. I mean, did he? Well, that's the question. Did he?
It's a good question. Yeah.
I personally don't think so.
Really?
I don't think he had deep feelings for her.
Yeah, I think there was some stuff on the surface, because I don't think you can get involved with someone like that without having something on the surface.
But when they first get together, they go back to, what is it? I can't remember if it's his or her room.
His house.
His house. I couldn't tell if it was just like a one night stand thing or, I knew he was trying to, now I look back, I can see that he's trying to get in to the inside of this kind of group, and kind of earn her trust, so that he can do what he needs to do, kidnap her and all that stuff.
Well, it's purely conjecture on my part, but I think that entire thing, like, I think he's trying to get close, right? And he knows like she's the key to unlocking him getting close to the original crew.
Okay.
But I think that their night together is also like I said, it's pure conjecture on my part, but I think it's an admission that he's been 8 years working on this. And probably in that 8 years, he hasn't done anything domestic. Like, he's probably not gone out on dates. He's probably not, probably maybe not even had sex, And so because of that, he's got to get close to her. And just, this is kind of the natural state of what falls out of those two people growing close to each other. I don't think they weren't close to it. I think she had real feelings for him. I think he had some feelings for her, but no matter what his feelings for her were, they weren't enough to quench the anger that he had inside.
I feel like he was taking advantage of her loneliness, because she was only going, and they kind of showed that in the conjugal visits to Kuro and stuff like that. But herself, along with her son, was alone.
Yeah. The weird part about Jose is that I'm not sure he's totally calculated in that way.
Really?
Like, I don't get the impression from the movie that he's a evil genius, and he set all this up beforehand and made sure everything went the way he wanted it to.
Yeah, he doesn't have like this wall dedicated in his house with all these little push pins and pictures, and has these things set out and here's step 1, here's step 2 type thing. I think you're absolutely right.
I think I agree with you.
I think he's more general plan type guy
and just reacting to the situation. And I think the situation, like
that first kill, that was clearly exactly just off the cuff.
Oh, and that tension buildup on that too. When you see the screwdriver, when the camera flits onto the screwdriver, you're like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah, and
that was pretty gross.
They wait until they make you wait a while before they actually go through with the.
Well, you can see Jose fighting it. Right. You can see him having that whole, and that's just amazing acting. You can see him having this whole dialogue in his head of him acting it out before he even reaches and grabs it, because you have to get past that threshold to do something.
Well, yeah, it feels like he's going, okay, there's 2 outcomes of this. Either I go through with it or I walk away and the whole plan's done.
Yeah, this is his point of no return.
Right.
Right here. He either does it or he doesn't.
Killer, yeah. Or he walks out and he forgets all of the revenge.
And it kind of reminded me, reminds me as we talked about it, there's a scene in Breaking Bad where he's in the very first season where he's trying to decide if he should kill the guy in the basement or not.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Someone hasn't watched Breaking Bad, dude.
I've never watched it.
Oh, really?
Never have.
Oh, wow.
How do we sneak TV shows into this podcast? Problem is, 6 seasons that it take forever to watch it.
6 short seasons. Anyways. Yeah. But there's that's what I really liked about Breaking Bad, was that you could always see the like Walt in it happens in all the seasons where he's always got less and less as you get further down, but him fighting the good and the bad, whether he should or he shouldn't, the morality of it all. And so that, and you could see Jose doing kind of the same thing here.
Yeah, one more step towards darkness.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's this going to take out of me? And I guess we all have to make those, and that's the hard part about this movie is that
I hope I never have to make those decisions.
Well, but it kind of puts you in the chair of, what if that was you? What would you make? What decision would you make at that point? And those are some of the hardest parts in movies and TV shows. They're really good and they're really tense, but they're hard to watch. And then when they make that, when they do their action, that's hard to watch too, when they start going down that path of no return away from, the redemption that they think that they could have had. But that's that whole scene, that whole first scene where they see that first friend from the jewel heist is pretty tense. And then them escaping was just unreal.
I think it's interesting. He goes back for Kuro. And I think it's meant to be that interesting. I think it's meant to be this point of question that you stop and say, okay, did he go back for Kuro because he didn't want to get caught and didn't want Kuro to talk to anyone about it? Did he go back for Kuro because he actually didn't want Kuro to get more in trouble, or did he need them? And I think there's the answer to me was he only went back for him because he needed him.
He needs him.
Yeah, he needed him for the other one. And I don't think there's anything else other than, crap, I need this guy to come with me. There's at this point, nothing else stopping him from letting Kuro go.
Well, that guy's the linchpin. Kuro is the linchpin to his whole plan.
He can't find the next 2 without him. And on top of that, I don't think he was worried about getting caught per se, because there's no way those guys, they go downstairs, you see the dead friend, they know exactly who did it. Mm-hmm. That stuff gets reported to the police immediately, and that whole thing happens. So they're not trying to avoid the situation. He's just trying to make sure he can get to the next part of it.
Exactly. So what changes then, if that's his attitude towards Kuro there? What changes between this and the end of the movie, where he decides not to blast Kuro in the back as he runs toward Anna? Like what changes in that
I don't think anything changed.
No, I don't think so either.
I think he never planned. His whole motivation was to kill the guys that killed his people. And
Kuro was not that person.
Kuro was the driver, and he was literally just outside waiting. He had no interactions with any of the family. So I never got the impression that Kuro was in danger of dying throughout the entire movie.
See, and I don't think anger is that rational. I think it's irrational. I think it's because he's involved with the whole thing. I think he had just as much chance of being shot in the face as most of the other ones. Maybe a little less so for the reasons you pointed out, but I don't think the anger that Jose has just draws a fine line between, oh no, I'm not going to let the anger and
I might disagree with you on that
and kill out this guy.
Because the entire nature of the movie is that the anger that Jose has is entirely calculated. You don't go 8 years on irrational anger. Like things he's doing, like, yes, we talked about earlier, he doesn't have a plan, he doesn't have a wall with, strings tied to different things and photographs and stuff. But he is playing the scenario for the cold revenge that he wants. It's not a hot revenge.
He knows who he's going after. I think that was calculated.
Except for the twist at the end, which I thought was great.
Right. But I mean, he knows who he's going after for the most part, That part I think is calculated. I don't think he actually he didn't have a calculated plan on how to get to them other than Kuro. That was the linchpin, as we said.
Yeah. I think I got the impression, especially, they slept at the motel later. I guess Kuro didn't sleep, but he wasn't tying him down, anything else like that. He's just like, let the threat to Anna and the kid just be the thing that ties him to the situation.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know. I never got the impression that Kuro was really in direct danger. Like, if he refused Jose would have taken the necessary steps to, get the information from him. But since that never came up, I don't think Kuro was ever in any real danger from Jose.
I agree. I don't think Anna and the kid were really.
And they weren't, yeah.
I don't think Anna
either.
and the kid were at all.
Yeah.
I think they were.
I think it was just leverage.
Yeah.
Leverage with no intent, really. I mean, unless everything just went. I don't even think if everything went out the window that he would have done anything to him.
Okay, so I want to talk about the car ride with the second guy. Was that Julio?
The one where they go to the town where they're dancing and stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like everything that he was saying to Kuro during the car ride was the exact opposite you needed to say to Jose to get Jose to forgive you. Like, I was every word he said, I was like, dude, shut up. You're making it worse.
This is not going to help your case here.
Yeah. And the guy thought he was, explaining the situation to Kuro and stuff.
Because he thought Kuro was the one that was going
to kill him. Yeah.
For leaving him in jail for 8 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kuro's like, I don't want anything to do with this. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Please shut up.
And
you can see him trying to tell that with his eyes, like,
And Jose was just like, you could just see him just like, okay, yeah, this is easy at this point.
I've done it once. This won't be hard.
Well, and on top of that, like the guy isn't remorseful for the right reasons.
Yeah, he's only remorseful because now he has a good life.
Right.
He has a baby on the way, and now he's sorry.
Well, he's not even sorry.
He's not
not even sorry. I don't know what the right word is here, but yes, he's not remorseful.
Yeah, he's in a good spot right now, and he doesn't want that to be ruined.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the actual death scene, at the pig pen, that was intense.
That was brutal because there was the question there for just a split second. Is Jose going to let him go?
Yeah.
Whether Jose was going to just finally say, oh, well, now I know who the real guy is. I guess I don't need to kill this guy and fine, whatever. And there's that split second that had Kuro not gotten involved, I wonder if Jose would have just left the guy there and not done anything else.
Yeah,
Well-
I don't know. I mean, I think
I don't think so.
I think the death of Santi pretty much sealed it. But I do like that as a film, as a piece of art, it set up the same thing twice and got me to believe it twice. It's like, oh, will he or won't he twice?
Well-
And I'm like, you really shouldn't be able to pull that off a second time, but the movie totally did it.
Oh, I thought he was, honestly, before he went back into the barn,
Yeah.
I honestly thought he was just going to walk away.
I knew as the second Kudo got involved, he was going to follow through.
Gotcha.
But right before Kudo got involved, where you can see him kind of like come to the realization it's Juanjo and like, oh no, what's going on? That's when I had that split second of, oh man, he might let him go. And then Kudo gets involved and screws it all up.
Mm-hmm.
Because now, he has to fight Kudo to stop him. And now he's like, well, I guess I'm going to follow through now. So I think without Kudo there.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I could see where you're coming from with that. I didn't have that impression. I had the impression that basically the moment I'm talking about when they're actually in the barn and he's got the gun to Julio's head. That's the part where I thought, okay, he's thinking about it.
Yeah, no, at that point I didn't think I didn't have a question personally.
Gotcha. Because at outside the barn, I thought, yeah, this is going to go down no matter what. I mean, this is the part that Jose saw happening because he had the gun ready. This is what he knew he was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't question that he was going to do it at that point. But I think when it came down to the intimate act of just him and Julio in the barn, and he's got to pull the trigger right then, like what he did with Santi with the screwdriver felt more passionate, felt more like just unleash the anger, the fury right then.
But
Agreed.
Agreed. This one felt way more calculating, like just way more like, I'm calm, I'm here, but this is inevitable.
It's like the first one was like popping the top of a can where you get all that, a can of soda pop where you get all that like energetic like fizz and stuff. It's like you're just releasing it, and then everything else is kind of more like mellow, but it's still going to happen. It's still going to go through with it,
Okay, drinking a soda as a metaphor for murder. That's
the energetic part you said.
It makes sense. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I follow it. It's interesting.
I honestly didn't. This is a scene I talked about earlier that I honestly they like you said they fooled me. I honestly thought he was gonna, once he found out the information of who really did it and stuff. I was just like, what, and then when he shot him right before he went into the barn, I thought, okay, maybe he's just gonna leave him alone. And then when he started walking towards that barn, I'm like, nope. I knew this was going down the second he started walking towards that barn, even after he'd already shot him, Oh.
I was going, check your corners when he walked inside. I was like, he's not checking his corners. He's going to get jumped.
He's going to get jumped right out of there.
He didn't, so yeah.
I think that guy was just way too hurt to do any of that. He was,
leg.
Yeah, he was dragging himself on the ground. I mean, that was, yeah, he was done for right then and there, man. And intense. Ooh, that whole barn scene is just so intense. My goodness.
I'm glad this scene took place in a barn because I was waiting for another bathroom scene. There were so many bathroom scenes in this film. So I'm glad
maybe it has good lighting. I don't know.
I'm glad we didn't have a fight in the bathroom. I don't know what I would have done.
Speaking of lighting, I thought every time they had a shot in the daytime, the color saturation just reminded me so much of like summers in Texas and stuff like that because it was so white and it looked hot and sweaty and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's just the way cinematography can kind of take you to a different place and kind of convey.
It reminded me of Hell or High Water, the film.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it takes place in Texas, so I can see that.
Well, Hell or High Water does, yeah.
But that same kind of feeling of gritty, dirt, hot, just like exactly what you're saying. That's what it reminded me of.
Yep.
Hot Hosa, they call her. Hot country, they call it in Portuguese. That's, when I think of the country, man, that's what I think of. That is, it's just sagebrush and heat, and boy, they did good at making the Spain look that were extremely like uninviting, in the sense of like temperature and heat and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
So speaking of no, okay, well, I lost it now. Lost what I was gonna say. So let's just jump ahead to the twist.
All right.
So the twist, I kind of saw the twist coming. Personally.
Well, he did mention Wanho a couple of times, like when he was calling back.
Yep, exactly.
But I never, honestly, I never picked up what he was trying to tell him. It actually was a twist for me, and that usually doesn't happen. I think it has something to do with watching subtitles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I just didn't pick up on it. And when he was like, when Julio's basically saying, "Well, Wanho does," and then I'm like, "Oh crap!" So I realized at the same time that Jose did what the twist was. That
Wano's
that her brother was the actual.
Yeah, there was no robber. There was no the other guy they were supposed to go after. Supposedly the third guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I loved the twist. It was really well done.
Oh, and how close Jose and Wanho were.
Yeah, like the betrayal that must have felt like that, because they've gotten to know each other over the course of 8 years, or how many years he's been working in that cafe.
Right.
And they play cards together, and they play cards better together than the other group he played with.
Yep.
So it's like the betrayal of what's going on there. And then I'm sure had he not already killed Santi and Julio, would he have pulled the trigger on Wanho? I think the answer is yes.
Well, yeah, because the real twist is Wanho was the most violent one that actually put his
wife
killed his wife. His fiance,
sorry,
yeah, but still, yeah, his fiance in a coma. It basically killed her, beat her practically to death.
Yeah, he knew him as one thing, and then to find out that he was completely something different.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Because you felt like the setup for that's interesting, because Jose's in that cafe to get close to Anna, because Anna gets him close to Kuro, and Kuro gets him close to the crew. Like that's as far as he's gotten with the things. He grows close to Wanho as kind of a byproduct of that. And who knows how close Jose actually was to Wanho. They just, he kept that pretty close to his vest. It wasn't, but it didn't look like he didn't enjoy hanging out with him. So yeah, I thought it's a really cool like setup and payoff.
I think he let him get as close as any man who's on a mission would let you get close to. I know when I get on a mission or something like that, I kind of like to keep people at a distance somewhat, even though I'm still interacting in society, and I could see that happening with this too. But I still think he considered him a friend. I mean, just the way that when he found out about it, and just the kind of the way he acted and looked and stuff, it was.
Well, we didn't get to see their final interaction.
No,
we just heard it.
No, but like when he just initially found out, like this is who I was going for, it's like,
yeah,
I
can see that. Yeah.
Like the anger that he had towards like go for how direct he was to go for the brother, and not only that, how angry he must have been to do it with his daughter in the next room. That horrified me, by the way.
At that point, he's basically the Terminator. He has no emotion outside of the end result. Like you just see him shut down emotionally.
I think it went from he found out to Terminator in very short time. Because of the betrayal.
I wonder if it meant to convey at the point where he kills Julio, like that's the struggle right there. That's the final thing. He's like, at that point in time, he knows exactly who needs to die, who's the final person.
He already made the choice to kill Wanho when he killed Julio.
Exactly. That's what I think happened. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think at that point there was a no going back. It was like, all right, I pull this trigger. This is not going to end until Wanho's dead.
Right.
And potentially Kudo, because that's I still kind of lean towards that direction. But I think you're absolutely right. I think he made that final decision right in the moment he pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it made me that part when he killed the brother, it was with the daughter in the next room. That I don't know. That was
That's the worst. Yeah.
no, it was
That's
that was a
hard.
tough scene for me. I had a hard time just like wow, just the
I
sheer anger to like not even to disregard everything and anything around you, even somebody. I mean that his child
kid.
seeing you walk out of the room, knowing potentially what happened or will figure it out.
figure it out. Yeah.
Well, there's only one person
I-
that's going to find the body. Yeah.
And it's going to be the daughter.
Yeah.
I thought about that.
Jose. I don't like Jose. At the end of this movie, I'm not a fan of Jose. I can empathize with Kuro a lot more. But man, I don't like Jose coming out of this film. You go into the film rooting for him. Because I mean that's what you do in these kinds of action vengeance film. You root for this underdog and do all that jazz. But by the time he kills Julio, you're like, oh man, I do not like this guy. And part of you is hoping that he fails.
Right.
And hoping that he doesn't end up doing this because he's doing a lot more damage than he is, than ever was done to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's not a hero in any real sense, and he's not
even an anti-hero. I mean, he's not even that.
Yeah.
He's just a nasty person.
Well, sort of. Okay, so here's where the movie gets interesting, I think, from a philosophical standpoint, because like if you put yourself in his shoes, right, and the people that you love are like, I know it's easy to say to forgive somebody of something that is, or try to forget or try to move on or something like that. But to actually do it is probably much harder than what people, what we let on,
Agreed.
And if you put yourself in his shoes, like his fiance didn't have a choice in what was going to happen. Her entire future was taken. And in in that context, so was his, with her. And then also his dad and, was his mom also involved too? I thought both his parents were involved. I don't remember. It seemed like he was alone at the end.
I believe he was alone at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because we're talking Jose, right?
Yeah, we're talking Jose.
Well, I mean, he told him that the house had been left to him.
Yeah. So like
he had nothing else other than the videos and that house, basically.
Yeah.
And his vengeance. And his anger.
Vengeance. Right. And his anger. And to say that you would just be able to walk away from all that emotion and just do the right thing, whatever that is, I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying.
Like he's not a hero.
He's not a hero,
but he might be understandable.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can understand someone. I still don't like him.
Yeah, well,
even though I can understand and see him.
Gotcha.
But I still came to just wish somebody would have ended it before he did even more damage. Because I mean,
I mean, I understand it on some levels. Like I understand it. I mean, I've been pretty angry in the past, and I don't know if I know. I pray that I never know anger like this man felt over the death of his fiance.
Yeah,
and I've been pretty angry before. I've done things that I'm not happy with, out of anger, and yet I can't comprehend this man's anger. And so it's like on some levels I can understand, but fully no. I can't understand how he took it to this level. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. That I don't ever understand fully like what this man went through. And I hope that I hope none of us go through that kind of an anger.
Yeah, I hope we never have to. I thought this was an excellent film. Excellent, very, very well done. I don't know it's a film I could watch again simply because that amount that amount of tension exhausts you.
Yeah.
At the end of the film.
It's definitely it's a good one to see. It's not necessarily something you want to go revisit every once in a while. Yeah.
No, I highly enjoy it. Thank you for such a great recommendation.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Very well well received.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I don't think I would ever watch this movie again. Matter of fact, I watched it the one time and was going to rewatch it, and I couldn't bring myself to do it.
I hear you.
And it was like a week and a half ago, and I was a little rusty on my thinking on it. You know, some of the things that I thought, when I watched it, because I didn't write any notes down the first time, and I was going to watch it the second time for notes, and I couldn't do it. It was like I tried all day and yesterday to bring myself to do it. And you're right. It's just one of those movies that I think it's well acted, very well directed. I think the cinematography is well done. Just lots of emotion and very hard to watch. Again, going back to Breaking Bad, I struggle to even watch that again because of the same reasons. You know, because it's just so hard. Some of the decisions he has to make in his life in that show, Breaking Bad, and this movie is just it's just gut wrenching, and which is one of the reasons why I think I struggle with this. So
I hear you. Well,
and-
good. I'm glad you guys liked it because it was definitely a sleeper pick out of the other two, out of all three of them.
Now, I don't be too insulted by my rating by here, by the way.
No,
and stuff, because this is going to go along the similar kind of a rating like what you gave the last Starfighter.
Right, like, you know, whether or not you enjoyed it and then enjoy watching it again or something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you guys have anything else you want to say, or do we want to go to the ratings?
No, I'm good.
I'm good too. So I'll start with the rating on mine. I gave it 4 out of 10 shotguns, and it's not because I didn't like this movie. I did like this movie. I just gave it a lower score because most of the movie I was going, what the heck is going on? Like I just didn't understand, like you know, I guess all of the since I've thought about it, I probably understand it more now. I'm going off kind of my initial feelings, I guess. Right. But I say that with the understanding that I didn't hate this movie. You still haven't found one I hated, Crit.
Dang it.
I did like this movie. It was just one of those ones that was like you were so enthralled with like what was going on the screen that it was like you wanted to watch it. It sucked you in. Mm-hmm. But at the very end, because of the way I felt, kind of the things that we just said about it, like, you know, it was just hard to watch. I guess I gave it, you know, I probably went too low. I'll probably give it more like a 5 out of 10, like go like moderate on that. Just because now I've just talked myself out of the 4 out of 10 because I know I see how well done this was. And the only reason I was giving it a lower score is just maybe more out of a feelings that we just said of how tough some of this was to get through. But other than that, I think it's a good movie. It's a good movie. I just won't probably watch it ever again.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. And stuff like that. But I'm glad I watched it.
So I would never watch this film with my mother in the room.
Clearly.
For a couple of different reasons, huh?
for a couple of reasons. But other than that, I rate it very highly. The film itself is it's a masterpiece in tension.
It does a good job.
Really, really, really happy with it. But that's my rating.
All right. I give it 21 out of 33 Santi girlfriends.
Love it, man.
Yeah, Santi was great. And then Juanjo talking about his wife when she said she's as big as an ox, but warm. I'm just
but warm.
But warm. I think overall, this was a good pick, Crit, and stuff. Oh. And I love this podcast for reasons like this, because these are movies that I would have never watched on my own. And yet
I kind of wanted to pick I didn't want to talk about the motivations when we actually discussed it in the last episode, but I do want to talk about it now because I'm trying to find stuff that maybe we all haven't seen. On top of the stuff that I like going back and revisiting stuff we've seen before, obviously, and kind of talking about when we first saw it and stuff like that. But I think there's some like to push us and branch us out a little bit, because I hadn't seen this movie either when I hadn't seen it yet when I suggested it. This was a total.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I saw the plot synopsis. I saw that it matched the heist aspect of it. I had never seen it before. And I was like, well, this will be a challenge for all of us. And I could have picked a total loser in this one.
I thought this was a weird pick when I watched it. It was kind of a weird spin on a heist movie.
Yeah.
And so I get it. I understand a little bit now why. That's okay. I get it now. And so again, I think it was a great pick.
Because if we have to pick only movies we've seen before ourselves, the three of us probably have enough overlap that we've all seen them.
I agree with that.
So I wanted to see if I could branch out a little bit, and then I got lucky and you guys picked it. So there we go.
And I can't wait to see what we have for this next month, because I'm hoping that we get some of those gems like this one in our next month. Yep. And speaking of next month, we are going to be going into our horror fest for our topic this month. We're going to be talking about horror movies for the month of October, of course, and which I'm excited for. I mean, yes, I love fantasy and sci-fi, but boy, if I had to pick the next genre that I love a lot, it would be horror.
We should talk about the motivation of that at some point in time.
Why I like horror?
Yeah.
Because it's October.
Because it's basically fantasy also.
I don't. Yeah, well, it used to be that I like to get scared. I've watched so many, I'm so jaded, I don't get scared anymore.
I hear you.
But that's initially what got me going. So, but this week is JHoN. JHoN's going to give us our 3 picks for next week in horror, and I love that you're starting it out, JHoN, because I know that you're a person who loves it too.
I'm a horror film aficionado. I love horror. Other than body horror. Body horror is the one kind of horror that I'm just, nope, don't
Noted
like it,
for my
don't care for it.
I'm right there with you, brother.
Don't enjoy it. I would turn it off if you suggested a film like Hostel.
Me and Crit already talked about it. This is something I was almost going to put up like a let's not talk horror, and then he reminded me that you didn't like it either. So I'm like, I'm good.
Just the body horror.
I hate that
Okay,
stuff.
so a couple of clues. First of all 3 of these movies have come out within the last 5 years.
Okay.
And all 3 of these movies start with the word "the."
Okay.
Which isn't too hard in horror.
I was about to say, I thought those were great clues. They should give everything away. Okay, so your first film, Stop Children, What's That Sound?
Okay.
Second one, How Much Blood Does One Goat Have? Third, What's Better Than The Exorcist? So again, that's Stop Children, What's That Sound? How much blood does one goat have? And what's better than The Exorcist?
Holy crap, that last one really intrigues me, because I really want to know what's better than The Exorcist.
Pretty much nothing is, but we'll see.
It's really good.
Like now you're calling into question the quality of the third film.
That's true.
Not necessarily my intention, but I'll go with it if it gets you to choose it.
Do you pick that one as well, or do you feel in something else, Crit?
I'm fine with that one.
Okay, I'm glad, because that's the one I wanted.
Oh, really?
Picked. Yep.
Oh, good.
Okay, so Stop Children, What's That Sound? Is The Wind, 2018.
I haven't seen that one before.
It's amazing. It's the one.
Well, I need to put it on my list then.
It's set in the prairie, kind of back in the Wild West days, and it's amazing. You should watch it.
I love October because I start getting lots of texts from JHoN. JHoN will start doing the whole, and you've done it for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I sent you a list last year. It's like,
yeah, you just start like, Josh, you seen this? You seen this?
The problem is you can't do that this year because of the podcast.
No, I can't. Yeah. Okay, so How Much Blood Does One Goat Have? Is Korean's The Wailing.
Okay.
I've heard of this one, but I haven't had a chance to see it.
Oh, it's fantastic. I enjoyed that quite much.
I love Korean horror. It is so good.
Well, you'll be happy because your third and final pick, the one you guys chose, what's better than The Exorcist? The answer is The Korean Exorcist. The movie is The Priests.
I just wanted to break in here and let you guys know that if you're following along, that we were not able to find The Priests on any streaming site. And we had to end up choosing The Wailing. We wanted to stick with the Korean horror genre, so watch along with us. The Wailing. Next time.
2015.
Really? I've never heard of this one.
Yep. Two priests have to find out if a young girl was attacked by an evil spirit or a human molester in order to save her life. And it's a Korean film starring Dong-won Gang, I don't know how to say his name right, and Yeon Suk Kim, which are two very big actors.
I've heard of Young Suk Kim before.
Yep. Well, Dong-won Gang, I think, is part of he's now a very famous actor. And I think he's part of a Korean boy band at some point too.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I want to watch it even more then.
The film is excellent. I'm really excited to have you guys watch it. I'm really glad you picked it. I hoped you would.
And what is the name one more time? The Priests?
The Priests. And I will I'll text you the name I'll text you the IMDb page that has the name in Korean too.
Have you seen this one before?
I have not. No.
Okay. All right. This is awesome. Well, I can't wait because I love The Exorcist.
I'm excited. I watch this one every year.
The Exorcist was one of the movies when I was little that scared the crap out of me.
Oh yeah, same here. So
bad. All right. Well, I look forward to next week, guys, and stuff. It's going to be I think it's going to be a fun month. And thanks for both being on here tonight. I think this was a great movie, great pick, Crit, and I'm glad that we did it. Yeah. And I appreciate everybody's comments. I think this was a good discussion once again, and stuff. And as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. Good night.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe and check out our other nerdy videos.